Hey, all right, mic is working. It's on too. All right. I think we're pretty good to go. I'll drop it in here for now. Cool. All right, we're live. Let me see. Is there anything else? Kind of a easy concept to talk about today. It's just something that I've noticed has been consistent with the creator-owned independent comic space, particularly in crowdfunding, that I wanted to chat about. Yeah, time. It's a Saturday, so see how the viewership is. I've mostly been doing these in the week early, and that's I don't recommend it if you want viewership. And I also recommend being consistent with it. Another thing I'm not great. Coffee's still warm though. That's always a good thing. Didn't take me too long. A lot of the time, I'm not live till the coffee's cold. Howdy, I'm Cody with IronVerse Comics. We're gonna try and sift through some try to be careful with my words, right? I was gonna use the term rank bullshit, and that's not honest. That's inflammatory. Uh, it's quite inflammatory. Some of it is rank bullshit. Okay, to be fair, it's more edge case than I'd like to actually paint the picture as, because I think like 90% of it is exceedingly well intentioned. Uh, yeah, that's the thing. So this is gonna be a trip. So what I should have done before this is pulled out more examples. So what we're gonna do, it's gonna be fun, is we're just gonna search comic advice, and hopefully it becomes very difficult to find the cases I'm looking for. Right? Um, Hopefully most of what I find is here's how you draw hands, and look at this tutorial I did. You know, it's creation tutorial, or here's how you set up a page. Like that's stuff I want to find. What I think I'm going to find, though, and the thing that I wanted to talk about today, is I'm going to find a lot of people telling you how to do things that they themselves demonstrably are not doing that great. So, we'll see. We'll see. Hope folks are well. If you are here, please shoot a howdy into chat just so I know. I can see numbers, but I never know if they're true. Um, let's just say howdy. I appreciate it greatly. Just knowing I'm not talking to the wall, which I've done for 95% of this channel's existence, where I just, record my voice, which it's good for me. But, man, I have so much better of a time when folks are here. Let's see here. So, we'll start very simply with who you don't listen to. Ooh, do I have a good track next, though? Or is it the same track? This works. I like the piano one. Let's see, the levels. Levels are alright. If it's too loud, please let me know as well. There's little things like that as well that I don't know how it's broadcasting. I can just look at the levels and be like, yeah, looks like it's working, maybe. Most of the time now, pretty good at it, but you never know. Okay. Whoop. So who don't you listen to? So anybody who's run a crowdfunding campaign, and particularly like this year, from what I've seen, but it's been a thing forever since I've started crowdfunding. It's a keyword that bots will latch onto, and there are many of these kind of bots. Now, I'm not going to dismiss entirely this concept, right? Hiring a digital marketing team. Like, I don't think that there's zero chance of it being helpful, but I will say they've been around since July, and they're digital marketers with 120 followers. It's better than some others, right? So let me show you a far worse example. In fact, I don't even know if I still have that saved, but the concept is there. So if I come across what I'm thinking, I'll share that as well. It's a meme. It's a meme. But what I'm going to show you is not a meme. Oh, man, the soundtrack's so good. Searching, sorry. There's a lot in here you won't be too interested in. You might like this. Boom. Stuff is landing still. I'm so happy. Some good looking books there too. It's interesting when you're looking at this. We went the most understated.
Said. Sub liked and subbed busy or ID join you.
No worries. Thank you for saying howdy. And thank you for subbing and liking and all that. It makes a difference. It makes a significant difference. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Hopefully you can catch me another go. We got some fan art in, which was fun too. I always appreciate it. I gotta add that to the site. In fact, there's like 4 pieces I need to add to the site, so I should probably do that today as well while I'm here. Thank God the caffeine's kicking in too. I want to talk about this today too. Let me, so I don't forget. Okay, but that's not what we're talking about today. No, I might not have saved it. Fucking love that page. I'm glad other people love that page too. Telling me no, and I gotta look through my notifications. Could swear the memes in here that I'm looking for. And that one's great. It's
Jose Garcia.
Howdy, howdy.
Thanks for following.
Oh, look at that. Thank you, thank you. Was that on Twitch? Or is that here? I rarely get the Robo Lady. Like, I'm not always sure what I'm glad to hear things like that, but I never know what's going on. Because I used to simulcast the Twitch, right? And then Twitch changed the rules about that. So I haven't been on Twitch for really since episode 49. We're on 82. I haven't been on Twitch for a little bit. So if it is Twitch, I apologize. When I find the time, I'd like to do the gaming material on Twitch. It's just more, it's significantly logical to utilize that platform for that material and then like re-upload the VODs to YouTube. But yeah, so maybe following is also subbing. I don't know. I'm very confused. Keep going. Keep going. I know what I'm looking for. I bookmarked much. There it is. This is kind of what we're dealing with. This is kind of what I'm talking about. It's the extreme thing, but this is what we're doing. Is folks who talk about, you know, for instance, these guys pay us to do these things that we can't do. Like it's just it's a lot of that. So they're better than some. At least they have 100 followers, right? I will show you other bits, and I'm sure if you've run a crowd campaign, you know what I'm talking about. I think when I started out, in fact, the bots were worse about it. You'll get emails too. I will show you that, but this is like the bare minimum, like folks you definitely should not be like listening to. These are sharks and robots. They're robotic sharks. They're looking to take advantage of folks.
I'm listening while working, looking forward to the creator roundtables.
Thank you. I still need to figure out how I want to do this because, like, this is busy, right? Like, I've got the music going, I've got all these images. I'd still like to have, if we're live, like, I'd still like to do a chat thing like I've done here. I wouldn't mind a simple, calm set of music, which I do have. Um, right now, I've got this going because it wakes me up alongside the coffee, but maybe just the. There's a lot of Western stuff in here too, which is great for my brand. But yeah, some simple stuff. But thank you. I want to do. So I did a group chat, so I can kind of feel out personalities. Honestly, see how. I mean, I wrote it in the group chat directly. I tried to address it very, very directly, because the capability of it becoming a mess is very real. And so far, it hasn't been a mess, and people haven't quite taken advantage of it, which has been good as well. Because I don't want it to become a link sync either, where it's just drop this, yeah, look at this. I wanted to foster actual discussion. So I tried a more inflammatory discussion about AI art, and it was very civil. So all signs are pointing to green. I just need to schedule it. And in fact, I think I have a co-host I'd like to ask to join me. That would be extremely beneficial to how this would form. And I know a lot of people are used to Streamlabs, whereas this, I would like to do it through Discord because it allows me to moderate it a little bit stronger than Streamlabs does. Plus, I can do things like this music, and I can do the intro scene, and I can make things look nice. And I think any creator who's going to be brave enough and bold enough to sit down with a bunch of other folks and chat about this deserves some flair, some nice presentation to it, right? So maybe we'll do a little bit of that today too. I'd like to set that up. But I digress. I'm looking for another example of that. Though I've gotten good interactions, it might be harder for me to find. So that's from yesterday, which is good. But yeah, the main thing I wanted, we're starting at the very baseline of like common sense. Like, you should know to avoid these people because they don't have anything to offer except to take your money. Here you go. Here's one, right? Ooh, that was a good fade. Okay, no, I actually was grooving to the Far Cry there. Oh, it's not right. Oh, it is. It's right below. Here you go. Like this. It's very polite. Then this guy actually took like time to write it, which is nice too.
Said, yo.
But it's this. You will, if you run a crowdfunding campaign, you will come across this so much. In fact, I think I get more emails than these kind of responses, but you do get these. These are sharks smelling blood. It's a little bit better than the folks who are pretending to be Amazon and, oh, we missed your package. Go enter your information so we can resend it. That has exploded over the last 5 or 6 years with the AI, right? I don't believe this one in particular is AI, but I have come across many of these. And again, those kind of emails and stuff that, yeah, it's AI, and it's just carpet bombing, hoping to hit a vulnerable, naive target. And so this is the worst of, like, in the indie comic space. You don't listen to this. It's not going to be helpful. Now, again, I won't fully dismiss some folks who that's their business, but if you've been there for months and months and you have like 15 followers, 10 followers, 13 followers, it's what can you teach me? Right? Like, as a human, if they are a person, sure, there's something I don't know from them. They have value in teaching, of course, a human fucking being. But in this particular space, no, I'm sorry, you don't have much to teach me. Not at that level. It's just the metrics ain't there, brother. So that's the ground level of people you shouldn't listen to. Like don't listen to them. They cannot help you. Now there are other levels of folks, and this one's harder because like without calling out specific people, and I don't like causing drama. But you will find in the comic creator space, and I am guilty of this as well. You will find in this space so many people who have, what is it, advice is cheap, let's say, and it's noise.
Twitter has its uses, but never trust an account name with a bunch of random numbers or names.
So true, and that's just in general. You are absolutely correct, especially if it's got like a pretty girl's profile picture, right? Like, yeah, no, that's been around since like any kind of social connection could exist online, right? Like, just don't. I mean, there's common sense, and I would hope what I just talked about was like, well, duh. Like, well, why are you wasting time talking about it? Like, I hope that's it, right? Like, yeah. I really hope so. But nonetheless, I had to, and I wanted to establish a base level of like, this is the bottom. Everything above this has more value, but it's still noise. And so we're gonna do it. So I don't want to cause shit because there's a particular couple of creators in the space who make a lot of their a large portion of their marketing is giving advice that, in my opinion, there's degrees of it, but in my opinion, it's not very helpful. Like, I used to do, and I still have many on the channel, but I used to do like campaign reviews, right? I'd go around and I'm like, oh, it's a lot of that, right? And in some cases, it could be helpful. I certainly am. And I think this is true of these other folks. Well, I certainly believe I have knowledge worth sharing. The value of that knowledge, however, I wouldn't know, and I think it would vary upon who's receiving it, right? There's some very basic chunks of knowledge that are, again, very common sense, like the base level I was talking about. That, yeah, please share, right? Like stick to it, keep trying it. Don't do it like if it's not your passion, because this is not a money-making scheme. It doesn't work that way. Oh, I didn't know it was San Geronimo. Okay, very cool. Man, I haven't been to one of those. I think this is the first year it's open to the public again since the pandemic, right? Fucking A. There's some really cool stuff, so.
Said, you are bad at self-promotion. I just think it because you're not an arrogant, self-absorbed weirdo.
Oh, I'm terrible at it. It's very true. And that is very helpful to be those things. People like weirdos, and people like self-assured weirdos. It's just a fact of life. They're far more interesting. But yeah, for people, I don't know the story behind San Geronimo. I believe, if you've heard of the native Geronimo, he was sainted, and that's a celebration of that at our Pueblo and Taos, our reservation. And there's some really neat stuff that goes on. But yeah, I haven't been there. Had to be before 2015. It had to be around 2010, maybe. It's been like 13 years, well over a decade since I went to celebrate that. Some fun stuff. It's nice to have some of those semi-mystic traditions still being celebrated. And it's a very unique mix of Catholicism and Native religion. I particularly strongly remember the stuff at night. A lot of fire, and I think there's an effigy of Mary that they lift above themselves and walk through the Pueblo.
Book publishers were more open to pushing in comics.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah. Uh, so I know Penguin kind of is getting into publishing established. Okay, so here's the thing, and Mark Millar was talking about this very strongly. Um, Actual like American comics, and this includes DC and Marvel, are 7% of the overall comic book market in the United States. 7%. About 75% of it is manga, and then the rest of it is Dave Pilsky and Dogman, Captain Underpants, that stuff that he puts out.
Penguin is corrupt.
You get any sort of, so this is a personal belief, and it might not be true because I don't know these individuals, but you get any sort of large amount of money in play, corruption occurs. It's just how it goes throughout the entirety of human history. Particularly when nepotism is allowed to seep into it, it does not disappear without a near complete stomping out of whatever it is. So yeah, I'm sure Penguin's corrupt. I'm sure many publishing houses are corrupt. The point is, though, it would be nice. Yes, I agree. And I think some of it is because traditional publishing and distribution methods are not, they are super risk adverse, right? Same with Hollywood, right? Like, it is very hard to get anything new into any kind of mainstream distribution channels. Even look at Image and the stuff that they publish, right? Their goal was to be very diverse in opinions, and for the last 15 years, there's a very small range of genre and stylistic choices that they will publish, and it's from a ever shrinking group of the same creators. It's how it goes.
Said, didn't Family Guy have a penguin joke?
I'm sure it's had many Penguin jokes, but for Penguin Random House, I think is what the publishing company's still called, or something like that. Maybe. I remember there being a Penguin as a boardroom guy, like he's at a desk talking to somebody in the Family Guy art style. I don't remember the joke, though.
Tediverisms said, I think the issue is that all these industries don't know how to even calculate risk. If they did, they would not be losing cash.
Also true.
Yeah, that publishing CO.
That indeed. So yeah, but I let's go back to this. So let's go back to the point, because yes, I know, I agree, but like it's tangential to what I'm doing here. 100% agree. Boom. Like this is great. This is the kind of stuff, like, no, you can listen to this and watch this. It's obvious their skill. If you're an artist and you can look through and how their brush movements, it's great. This isn't one of those fellas. Yeah, okay, and then here's another one. Let's see. 1,000 followers. She goes for kind, but this is a very common marketing tactic that, yes, I have indulged in as well, where it's like, well, look what I've done. Here's how you do it. Just make comics. And that was literally, when I was trying to break into comics, that was the only solid advice I ever came across. It's like, well, the only way to break in is to actually do it. There is no other way.
Jose Garcia
very obvious.
Said, I worked for First Second Books, big publisher. They're not bad, but they don't put a lot of effort to market new books, and by contract you can't promote it yourself. Kinda dumb.
By contract you can't market your own work. I would love to hear the reasoning behind that section of the contract, because that's insane. Publishers like Image, and well, primarily Image because they focused on being the creator-owned imprint, but Scout, Boom, Dynamite, it's in your contract that you have to. Marvel and DC is the same. Like, you have to market it, and they have it like how you're supposed to, right, in the contract. That is insane. And those are big guys who, in some cases, like, well, it's Spider-Man's pictures on the book, right? Like, you don't have to as hard. But they're going to tell you to do it. That's crazy. That is insane. But it's a young adult publisher, so I could see maybe it has something to do with the audience that they try to get to isn't on social media, and you're very likely to make an ass of yourself on social media. I don't know.
Said, have you tried selling your soul to an old Lovecraftian god?
Sadly, I value my soul more than that. But that could work. I'm not gonna lie, it's worked for many, many, many rock and roll musicians since the birth of the genre, since Delta Blues, right?
Immortal Rising comic book. Said, LOL Teddy.
I can point you in the right direction if you want to do those sort of rituals, but I also don't want your blood on my hands. So.
Said, are you sure it'll give you 130?
Got to see that written out. Oh, a whole $1.30. Nah, I'm good. But yeah, so I'm glad let's retweet these as I get them out. I'm not gonna directly comment on them or anything, but here's like 4 of the questions she asked when she was told this. Right, that's fair. How do I start? Should I make a buffer? And it looks like she's specifically talking about webcomics as well, which is a different beast. It's similar, but it is a different beast than traditional comics. Look, that one should be easy. Like, even I know that, and I'm not an artist. That could be tough. I could see that. And it looks like she took some time to do that. So that's great. A lot of creators who try and market in this particular flavor do not have this level of follow through. I've done a couple, like you can look on my channel. So the ones I'm proud of is I did like 3 hours on my journey from start to finish, called The Road to issue number 3, something like that on the channel. Jack Irons number 3, I think that's what it's called, The Road to that. And I laid out every step and like how I met an artist, what I didn't know, all of these things like that. I don't think anybody has 3 hours to listen to me fucking ramble on, but it does exist, and that one actually I think had shape and form. And it's good if they do it this way. Like I would recommend, if you're interested, she probably actually does have some valuable stuff in there because they took the time to make a resource.
Teddybeerisms said, with webcomics you can be a low-level artist but only you're funny.
Only if, yeah, that's the problem with webcomics as well. I have a very, I like my sense of humor, but it's not, because I was going to call it poor, but it's not showy, I guess is the best way to put it.
Teddybeerisms said, writing matter.
Writing matter much. Okay, there's a lot of like union stuff in here, which makes sense at the moment, so I get that. Charred Hearted from DC. Alright. This is an individual who does do this. And you will find so many posts. Well, don't do the drama, and then you'll find them a week later engaging in the drama. Okay, here's a thread asking for people's advice. I've got quite a bit. Let's see some of this advice. Grow your base, get involved, love and support others first, be a force for others, and then be a force for you. That's pretty solid. That helps very, very much. I've worked around and with this individual, and he is very correct. There's a lot implied in this little bit. There's a lot implied there. You're not gonna make money doing it, and it is playing the lottery. Yeah. Yeah, there's another one that makes sense. That can help, but it can also become very, very frustrating very quickly. That can help for some folks. For me, I needed to lean into it. That's a big one. Just do it. Again, just make the comic. Whether it's a page, a 4-panel, whatever. Just go for it. Yep. Yep, same. This one's like, this one's for marketing, right? It's like, get a mailing list and all that. It can help. Some people it helps very much, but there are so many mailing lists now. The interaction on them is terrible. I also recommend any of the books from Scott McCloud. A lot of this is very what I expect, It's okay.
Teddybeerisms said, make sure to burn all your friendships so you have no distractions.
Yes! Hermit into a hole. Do that. So this is an individual. So, okay. I guess we can step it up. So there are also a lot of large creators that will give advice that honestly is bullshit because of how they actually got in to comics, right? I don't mind calling out Eric July in this case because he had a platform beforehand. He had a massive loyal following beforehand, and that's how he leveraged it, right? Ethan Van Sciver is another example of someone who came in with a massive reputation beforehand that then likes to tell new creators how to do their job. Honestly, that shit is what really pisses me off because they act like they're the good guy in that, and they don't seem to understand that what they're saying doesn't always work for everybody, and they can very much be leading folks to a road to disaster. For instance, it's been for years that people have been saying you have to have a YouTube channel to be a comic book creator. It's part of why I have a YouTube channel, right? That doesn't work for like 95% of people. For me, like, I like doing this, right? Like, I'm not great at it. I haven't attracted a massive following to the channel. None of that. It's good for my soul to share and document and interact and be out there, right? It's also decent for my business that anybody can come in and ask me questions live and interact with me as a human being. I think those things are wonderful, and for me, that's a great benefit to it. But as a marketing tool for my work, it is atrocious. It's not beneficial for that end of it whatsoever. And you'll find most of the people who it has been beneficial for are lol cows and drama farmers, right? There hasn't been a week since Eric July launched ESOM that he hasn't been in some kind of drama.
Said.
Same with Ethan.
Most comic advice is surface level.
Yes, Ravensloft, and welcome, brother. You are absolutely correct, and that's why I want to talk about this, because a lot of it is bullshit. And I said that earlier, but it's not. She said it's surface level. It's either common sense, which anybody could already figure out, and people use it as a marketing tool and act like they deserve something for it. That's the other bit that pisses me off. And when it's these large creators, it aggravates me to no end because it works. And I guess there's some jealousy to that, but at the same time, it breaks my heart that is like a thing. That people will look at these people and their road to success that is being dishonestly presented.
Teddybeerisms.
As the path up the mountain. I know we all
hate the Google machine, but are you on Playbooks?
No, and see, that's the other bit too, right? Like, there are a million ways to get out there. and some are very effective. As Teddy Bearisms talk to Google Play Books. So I've been watching one of my very old friends throughout this comics journey I've been able to take, Dan Sacro. He is now the digital marketing manager for Antarctic Press. And so I've been watching him just nail Antarctic Press's digital footprint. And some of that is they are now on Google Play Books, but also through Global Comics. And I guess the next wave is to go back to what is still called Comixology, even though it's kind of dead in terms of a business, right? And I would like to hear how Google Play Books has worked for Antarctic Press, because they have the catalog to actually make a massive footprint. In fact, watching them kick some ass on Global Comics has been incredible, to the level that they are. So they have been a trending publisher on Global Comics because of the amount of material they've had for a long time. They're keeping up with Boom and Dynamite and Image, right? And fucking Spawn's on there, right? They're keeping up with those folks because of that material. So I would love to see what the numbers are on Google Play Books. I will fully admit I am not very good at the business end of this. If I've learned anything through this comics journey, it's that. I am not financially or business minded. I've done well enough. I've gotten the jobs done, but I'm not good at it.
It's all about one-click access. It's just a matter of access. I think it's the biggest book provider now.
Okay, see, like I don't know these things. It's research. It's also finding your market and hitting it very well. I'm terrible at that. What I've been good at, so I'm very good at recognizing my weaknesses and then drowning in them. But strengths, it's a little bit harder for me to recognize. And I think one of my strengths is being able to connect with people on a one-on-one basis. And that's how I got a footing in the space to begin with, is I have been able to reach people on their platforms and make a very decent showing of my passion and my love and my beliefs in the work. I think I'm very good at that. Because for me, that's all honesty, right? The business shit is and that's what I'm talking about today, right? Is a little bit of it ends up coming off as this, you have to puff up your chest, quote unquote, right? And I as a human being, like the scale on which I'm exceedingly humble is the best way to put it. The scale of the existence in which I find myself is so extremely massive that approaching it with arrogance and a puffed up chest is very difficult. Approaching with confidence I can do when it's based upon a platform which I do truly stand upon, right? When it's based on my beliefs, on why I'm here, when it's based on these things, yes, I could stand against the world and yell at it, no question. But when it's trying to be fun or again this bravado that sells the work as more than what it is, it's very difficult for me. Very difficult. And that's that. In creator-owned comics, having a personality is extremely important.
The internet changed the game. Is an attention economy we live right now. Get attention however you can to stay relevant. Bad taste makes made more millionaires than good taste.
Jose is very correct. And you can watch it every day. You watch it every day and every bit.
To work with, but you've done the hardest part. You've made the comics you're allowed to sell out a bit for one of those gold back scratchers.
That would sure be swell, right? It would be great to actually not be in the hole every time I release a comic. And the fact that I've been in the hole every time we release a comic, and yet I've had to raise the goal to actually release the comic every time is beyond frustrating and disheartening. Like, last goal, I thought I was 4K above what I needed. This goal, I thought I was about 6K over what I needed. Nope. And so I would be happy to lay out what my dream of how to actually get this done would be, and it's very difficult to achieve. And it's what ends up like working for people. Again, folks who have it's financial energy. That is literally the crux of the situation. Is you need startup capital. The more you have, the better platform you can forge to walk off of, right? And so I've thought very deeply of how I can achieve that. But at the end of the day, it's what it would take for me to do that without outside, basically a miracle from the outside, is so risky that it could destroy my being. And so I can't do that. But that option's been there this whole time, so I've had to kind of. It would be nice if you know. There's a lot of steps along my journey that have been good lessons that I'm still shaking out because they are bad situations. One of them will occur once I'm finally able to finish this campaign's fulfillment. I'm both looking forward to it because it is an unshackling, but I am also saddened by it because it is a loss of potential and it could very well hurt some friends. So I'm not excited about that. It's been talked about. It's already like on the quote unquote in motion. It's not like, oh, now suddenly this and fuck you guys. And, you know, it's none of that, which is good. I'm trying to handle things. That's the other bit too. In business, you should be willing to be cutthroat because it is a livelihood, right? And I have a very hard time. I mean, my primary careers outside of comics have been caretaking. And I've had the same friends almost my entire life, right? People matter to me.
Making good quality comics is not cheap.
Bingo, as well. And particularly when you're trying to support artists at the level they deserve, if not even a little bit below that, but not much. It's very tough. If you are also a talent like Raven's Loft, it can help because you can then, you know, cut that out, but you're still investing time. And arguably, time is a more important resource than money. Most of the time we trade time for money, right? But money is recoupable, time is not. So it's tough. If I could draw, that'd be helpful, but at the same time, like, I didn't spend enough time learning one of those kind of skills, right? Arguably even writing, I haven't spent enough time.
Just remember Jeff Smith's Bones was failed garbage comic, then become the third highest selling comic, and it all honest it came down to good publishing.
And Will, my God, Jeff Smith. So he is one of my biggest heroes in the indie comic space. If he does give advice, I recommend listening to it. That would be one of the individuals. And thank God the heart attack he had did not take him recently. I'm so glad he's still around and kicking. He's healing. They've stopped talking about it as if it's rough. I think he's still in physical therapy, and that's going to be for a while. I'm very grateful, however, that he stuck around. I just read Razzle, which is his more adult comic he did after Bones, or Bone. And I highly recommend it because he got to explore more adult topics again, and in a way that he wanted to. It was very obvious. I love that book.
I'm glad he didn't stay with Image.
So am I. Image became the monster they sought to fight very quickly. My God, I could not deal with their CFO. You can tell a lot about a person from their art that they put out because it takes a lot of energy to put art out. And that's why I'm so proud of my work and many others, and why I'm so very critical of some other people's. You can tell a lot. It's very rare that an artistic expression does not have some reflection of the artist itself. whether that's simply their style or a message, a belief, a fundamental part of their being, right? It's very difficult. And when you're looking at it, you can't really always judge what that actually was, because many of them are magicians, so they're using an illusion to communicate something else in a lot of cases. And if you take it at face value, you are not understanding it correctly. Um,
Tedibeerisms.
but it's very tough not to.
I would buy it and take it back to form. Mind you, I have $1 in my pocket, so that might cover it after their next quarterly review.
They're doing better than IDW. I'll tell them that. And IDW, like, I'm man, that's a whole nother can of worms. So, one of my favorite creators in the space again, and he does Friday with D-Dubs. I very much recommend checking that out on YouTube. That's another wonderful creator who has made it in the mainstream and yet has maintained their creative integrity, is Daniel Warren Johnson. They lost Transformers, is why I'm saying this. They lost it to Skybound, which then got Daniel Warren Johnson to do a Transformers comic, which was so smart. And I hope he got a very good contract. He's one of the current greatest comic creators out there, in my opinion. And from a business mind as well. He's survived the mainstream. My God. Dark Horse is still around, and they are buying up licenses left and right. I'm very glad that they are leaning harder into their manga, because, again, Berserk has been... Just Berserk has kept them afloat. Let's just say that. Just Berserk. Not Hellboy, Berserk has kept them afloat over the pandemic. And particularly after Meteor's passing and they were releasing the deluxe editions, that has kept Dark Horse alive. And so now they've leaned into a lot of other media properties. And anyway, they're releasing Innocent and Innocent Rouge, which, oh my God, I'm so glad it's getting an English release.
That's right.
And so they've leaned very hard there. They're doing deluxe editions of Trigun, which... conceptually I love. If you actually read Trigun, it can be a mess. The actual manga itself it can be an incoherent mess with how he panels and renders characters and motion. I've read some very incoherent mangaka work, and he's still at the top. Nito's still at the top of that. There are some pages I had to read 3 times and be like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just move on and see if it makes sense in context later. Most of the time it does, to be fair, but those pages themselves, incoherent. Most of the time they look nice, but they're incoherent.
All the deluxe editions are super rad. I'm waiting for Trigun and Vinland Saga deluxe editions.
They got the Vinland Saga as well. See, they're being smart on that level. I'm very glad. They're picking up the adult manga. Again, I'm most excited for Innocent. It is my favorite piece of sequential art ever put to paper. And I had to read it, a fan translation. I couldn't stop reading it. I spent like 13 hours straight on on New Year's after my co-editor Dollar Coins, basically the co-runner of IronVerse Comics, showed it to me. He's like, this is the best thing I think I've ever read in comics. I was like, yeah, all right. Started, and it just grabbed the fuck out of me. I've never read anything as engrossing and emotionally relevant, and the incredible ability of that mangaka to weave metaphor into both the art and into the poetic nature of his paneling. Oh my God, it is a masterpiece. Again, I haven't read anything better, personally, and that includes Berserk, which is very hard for me to say. Berserk is a close number 2 in terms of engrossing and the honesty of the creator being placed into the page. But Innocent, my God, I'm so excited that they got a hold of that and it's actually getting an English release. It was only released in Europe, of course, Japan, Europe, and Mexico. So it was the only way to read it in English was fan translations.
They had followed though on Hero Bear and Lions, Tigers, and Bears. Any idea why those only maybe a 3 to 6 issue in?
I don't know. Dark Horse's contract is very interesting. Well, I haven't seen the contract, but even their submission form is very interesting. At least when I was trying to submit to Dark Horse, would be 8 years ago at this point. before I knew much about comics, to be fair. Like, I didn't have a shot. But nonetheless, I spent 5 years trying to go the traditional submission route. And I did talk about that in that longer video of the journey to issue number 3, right? Far more in depth. But I learned a lot. The main thing is they don't want you. The only reason they'd want you is if you're already established.
They were both in. Jose Garcia said, I hope they get a hold of Jagan and make a deluxe edition of Gantz.
I've heard nothing but wonderful things about Gantz. That's one I really want to check out. What I'm currently trying to read, and as I can get money for volumes, because I am currently out of work, which is frustrating as all hell, is Blame. I'm reading Blame, and I use reading very lightly because that comic has very little dialogue and narration. It has no narration and very, very little dialogue. It has some sound effects, if you want to call that reading. But it's incredible. It's all about scale and mystery and journey and vibe, and it is just such a cool read.
Draw and Talk.
So I've been reading that.
Said, have you tried pitching to AP? Jack Irons was such a good series, and I think they take it.
Oh, I think they would too at this point.
Even if it was in one of their monthly anthologies.
Oh, I would hope, between my various connections within AP and the quality of the work, yes, I would hope so.
Look up Hero Bear. The art is simple, clean. It's like Calvin and Hobbes meets Bone. It could have been huge. It's about the grandson of Santa Claus.
Oh, I think you might be a little biased as well. But yeah, we'll check out that. But let me address Draw and Talk real quick. So, basically within 6 months of actually hitting social media and marketing and things, I was picked up by Wicked, which allowed me to actually print the comic, which was never like part of my plan when I started out, right? And so being able to say that it's going to be printed as well, again, you can look through my first campaign, and it is one of the, if not the most unorthodox crowdfunding campaign I think I've ever seen in the independent comic space.
Said, oh yeah, I forgot that you're technically signed with Wicked.
And so, and they invested to get that book printed and shipped out and did the fulfillment and all of that, right? Since then, the space has changed significantly. My journey has changed significantly. I've learned a lot more. And there's plenty of room for things to evolve. But currently, with issue number 4, I need to finish that. It needs to be fulfilled, and it needs to be behind me before I can think of anything else on the horizon. However, I will absolutely say that Antarctic Press is a massive consideration for me currently. I think we could do a lot of good for each other. But we'll see. I'm trying, and I have been trying for a long time to, and over the last year, I've had the hardest job I've ever had. It took all of my emotional and mental and quite a bit of my physical energy, and it was worth every second of it. But I just have not had the energy to be super passionate and evolve the comic work much. The fact that I even was able to run and ship issue 4, a small miracle with the amount of energy I had to give it. And the last 2 campaigns, funding the final day, when I'm thinking, okay, well, if it doesn't work, I can actually take a breather and just focus on life. Twice, the fan base said, no, we want more Jack Irons. I'm like, oh, cool. All right. Right? Instead of, yes, I get to go, it's more, oh, okay. Let's do it. It was from a very shaky footing the last 2 times, and the fact that I've been able to get it done as far as I have in both times has been nothing but a small miracle if folks actually understood all the parts currently. And I've tried very hard to be very honest and open about those parts, but nonetheless, that goes into this here. And I had another poll, so we've already talked about another poll as well. In fact, I was thinking of the other poll, not this one, but this one's relevant as well. The other poll was, does late fulfillment and I use the term budget mismanagement, which is a lot harder than it actually needs to be. It would be more incorrect. It's not mismanagement if the budget was incorrect, but I didn't know how else to phrase it. The budget was incorrect, and it has been technically since I started. If it wasn't for Wicked's investment in the first campaign about the printing and the shipping, not only would I not have offered printing, which wouldn't have allowed me to fund that goal, but it was not built into the goal, right? It was not part of the funding, so it wouldn't have happened. But with issue 3, it was the same thing, where prices were wrong. And at least then I had 3 jobs, and one of them paid quite well under the table. And that gig disappeared in a way that really pissed me off. And with issue 4, again, I was out of work for, so now it's going to be probably about 4 months. But at this point, it was 2 months or so. And that was rough. And, so many angles, man. Issue 3, my dad passed. Like, I have not had a smooth sailing go of comics since I started. Which makes sense because the birth of this series and why I got into comics to begin with, why I even took the risk to dive in and figure it out and all of that, started with tragedy. Seeing opportunity in that tragedy as well. But it's very tiring because the only thing that feels like win, the only time any of it feels like a win is when it's done. And even then, it doesn't really feel like a win. It feels like a long, hard-fought battle that I survived. And I'm a survivor, but it is tiring. And so you couple that with my previous gig over at the animal shelter, and it is it is very tiring. And so I think it's a good thing in some ways that I was forced to step away from it. It's rough because I love the critters, and I don't like stepping away when the environment is shrinking because it is it's dying. But at the same time, the amount of death I had to deal with at the animal shelter and all these other things, like wonderful life experience, beautiful in the way that I got to take part. But best way to sum it up is I started sleeping better instantly, and I was very surprised by that. Literally the night I was done, I slept the best I had slept for in over a year. So it's time to recharge, and so I'm trying to do that by being passionate about my comic book work. That's why I'm trying to get the Creator Roundtable going, and so far that's actually not been a complete shit show, which I am very impressed by. I really thought, well, let's see how bad things are when you cram, in this case, 40 creators into a box from my platform, which is a spectrum all the way from almost very hard right to very hard left, and see how that goes in the comic space, because a lot of, again, comics are very core to somebody's expression, which will involve politics. Politics are the mechanisms in which we attempt to have our beliefs survive the collective, right? And that is not always a pleasant experience, to say the least. In fact, in most cases, it is very much not. So far, that's been all right, and I'm very impressed by that. And I was hoping a lot of people would be professional, and so far, yes. So I'm very glad about that. So I'm hoping when I organize the actual, again, I'm not sure if I want to do it live so that people can ask questions towards the end, or if I want to do it as a pre-recorded podcast so that there's no like interruptions and it's just the creator's thoughts. I think there's benefits to both, but I haven't figured out exactly how I want to handle that. But I think that is a beautiful opportunity that I've been given and have created, and I think that's the next step. I also don't know if I want to do it on a separate channel, if it would do better that way, or if I should just put it on this one, which has a small but established viewership. I don't know. But this was also part of it. So I've never, again, been cutthroat about my work in terms of the business. If I could make comics for free and put them out for free, I absolutely would. And so I've tried multiple models of putting my books out for free. And that's how one of the other pillars of how I got started is people can go and look at the black and white finished book and say, oh, this is what it is. This is cool. I want more of that. And so I kept it that way for a long time. And I have tried paid models. And what I found is whether it's paid or free has very little effect on the readership. If it is paid, even if you have a first issue, people usually won't continue it. If it is free, getting people to actually read it is very difficult. So there's no win in it. So that's why I was like, huh? Is it because it lowers the prestige? Why? Right? That's why I was asked why. Is the main reason for this. And I had issue number 3 and issue number 2 for a long time. I had about 2/3 of issue number 2 pay gated. People wouldn't pay to finish it. Now, is that because of the comic? Maybe. Or is it because of the economy? Maybe. Or is it because, the medium is very hard to support without a circus around it? Also, yes. I think all of these are factors, right? But I'd rather people who want to read it be able to read it. And so I've kept it free for quite a bit of time now. Just so I can point people to it, and I want feedback and engagement. And so having it not pay gated theoretically is the least amount of barriers between it and engagement, right? At the same time, you don't make any money off of it, but also I don't make any money off of it already. So it's before shit was free, while shit was paid, I don't. The only time I make, quote unquote, the project makes money is when there's a circus, right? When there's a time limit, there's a show going on, there's a risk of something not going, right? That's the only time. To be fair, I do have multiple passive incomes from wonderful supporters. Patreon pays for the website, which is about $45 a month. And Global Comics, which has a similar subscription service in terms of paying monthly, is a nice little every 3 months or so I get $40 because you can't withdraw until it's about $30. And so I that's nice. It's passive, but it's when you're paying between $200 and $300 a page for your creative team to actually manifest a page, it don't work. At the same time, of course I could change the creative team and make it cheaper, and that sacrifices some of the magic. So could I do a different series? Absolutely, but then I'm spread even thinner, and what people actually, and I'm taking that initial risk again. And what I've seen is with Cactus Coyote, when we tried to run that campaign, and currently with The Recluse, the attachment to IronVerse Comics doesn't seem to help. And currently, with how things have gone in the business for the last 2 campaigns, I think it actually hurts it. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, because it is a wonderful risk that these people have taken to create under our banner. But I can't help but think it I asked that poll again, how much does it hurt the brand, right? Most people say, oh, it's recoverable. It depends on the creator. And that was 75% of the vote. Over 120 votes, I think. which is an okay sample size. But over experience as well, I've had to raise the campaign totals needed while while the backer numbers have shrunk. And part of that's the economy, absolutely. Who's going to pay $25 for a fucking comic book? Very few people. But also, how it's run. I cannot deny that it's going to be. It's not something people will vocalize because they don't want to hurt you, but it has certainly had an effect on the work. I can guarantee it. Had I delivered very quickly on this book, I think Recluse would have had a significantly higher chance of gathering eyes. With the amount of time that it's taken, and we have shipped everything out domestically so far, all the books, and the stickers and the prints, but there are still some things that need to be done that have not been done, and I've had to offer more and more extra stuff to make these goals, which decreases any possible profit margin even further. I don't know. I've learned a lot, but I still have not been able to actually approach the creation of the book from the financial end in a stable footing since I started. Partially because of the page rates of my co-creators have massively increased each campaign. Part of it due to their prestige boss, part of it I mean, they deserve it, but I don't think they understand the costs involved, and so it's harder for me to be passionate about continuing to do this work when it continuously makes my life significantly harder when I'm already not that well off of an individual. And that slowed this campaign in spaces. Like, I could have tackled it a lot harder if I was enthused about getting through this fight. And I have not been enthused. And trying to find a logical path forward with all the mistakes I've made has been very difficult. And then I'm watching things like the Recluse campaign going on right now. Like, oh great, I hurt that too. It's very difficult for me to be enthusiastic about any of it. So I'm trying very hard to create outside of the box of IronVerse Comics currently. And I've got one possible gig, which is nice. And I have created outside of IronVerse before, and I've gotten extremely considerate page rates for that. But I think as a creative business, I have significantly failed it. And I don't know what to do with it at this point. So issue 4 is going to be the last issue for a while. I mentioned that when we funded. Because of that, it's a difficult thing. I think there could have been a lot more potential had I been an individual who could toe the line in some cases, right? But I couldn't because it makes the space even worse. I got sick of some of these talking points that still toe the line within a month of being on social media. Like, I got so sick of it. It's been a hard journey for Jack and particularly for myself, and I'm blessed that we've been able to. I can guarantee I helped get a footing for two wonderful creators. One of them is still like undersold. He should certainly be working at a higher level and far more prestigious. And the other has done many comics, and he should be doing more as well, but he's had consistent work with these mid-tier independent publishers, which is great. I'm so fucking proud of that. But I don't want to be broken by comics, and I still haven't figured out a way not to continuously be beaten down by it. And the reputation with Jack, though I think the artistic reputation is evident, it's obvious, and even my contributions to it in the writing, I think it's damn good. But that's not how the comics business works. Comics business works upon networking, like most business. It works upon consistency, like most business, and it works very little on luck, but a little bit's luck.
Teddybeerism.
So yeah, I don't know.
Said.
I don't know.
I think you should give up and move to the hills of West Virginia with me, and we can become moonshiners and eventually die at the hand of some forest crypt.
That would be nice. That would be nice. See something peculiar before I go. I've seen a lot of peculiar things. But yeah, so I don't know. These aren't great things to put out there again because, you know, confidence and the swagger and all that fucking facade bullshit that I see every day. My God, it pisses me off so bad. I just see it again and again and again. Some people it works, but the vast majority of people who do it, it just so disingenuous, and there's not enough time for that. It breaks my heart. But if it works and allows you to survive and make your books, like, good on you. I can't do it. And the more I've learned on this journey, the harder it is for me to simply stand on my footing and just like focus on this when like there's so much evidently that's like, well, yeah, I've learned a lot and it sucks. So I don't know. I'm glad folks check out the channel. I'm glad folks appreciate the work. I'm hoping to get some reviews of issue number 4 in soon, since a lot of folks have received issue number 4. In fact, the vast majority of folks have. That's one of my favorite parts, is that I know somebody has actually engaged with the material that we worked very hard to get out. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't, without asking for an incredible amount of funding to have like a huge like safety net within it, I don't see how I could possibly continue to make comics. Currently, we have 4 issues done, again with a publisher with distribution and actual passive awareness instead of, to be honest, nothing. I don't see it. And so hard decisions coming later, but you know, right now to honor the journey, I need to finish things before I can do that. At least it's in motion. It's just like, it sucks. Like there's no good decisions relating to my to something that means a lot to me, and that is a terrible place to have been in for so long. It's very tiring. And then my job was that as well. There's no like win with it, except very tangentially and sometimes. So I'm glad that in some ways I'm glad that gig is behind me. That's why I've had the energy to do any of these things I've started doing with comics, is because instantly a ton of that weight that was on my shoulders was gone. But if I'm looking at things realistically and honestly, would I, as a comic book backer, back me again? Well, yes, because I fucking love this story and I love this comic and I adore it. But like, as another backer who backs a bunch of books and likes a bunch of creators, and likely due to the economy and such has to shrink the amount that they support, I'm sure there are folks that they get more overall enjoyment out of their work from. And me creating in the same space as that is very difficult. I can't get on more shows and talk about the same, oh, the mainstream sucks fucking topics forever. Like, I can't do. I'm so impressed with people who can. I'd be so I'm so tired of it, and it's tangential to me at this point. Like, I just see it off in the corner. I guess if you're making money off of it, that would help. But like, and I guess my core beliefs of the value of money doesn't help my business acumen either. I often want as little of it as possible. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy hoarding it. I don't enjoy its mechanics. I don't enjoy the benefits that it brings in most of the cases. Like, it is a controlling, enslaving, manipulating, dark energy that we've all chained ourselves to fucking function around each other without killing each other. Like, it's it is just awful, and I've been blessed that I haven't had to sell my body and soul to survive. But whew, so yeah, there's a lot of problems with my business end of this, that if I had somebody who actually had business acumen, I would be able to pass that on to them in a second and be like, here, you can bear all that, fine. But yeah, it's rough. Once 4 is behind me, things will change. But yeah, anyway, I have no idea. When I started comics, this actually was very, very effective. Since actually getting a foot in the door, more people have seen the work, which is the point. But and more funding has been made each time. But I don't know how helpful it is. I think putting it behind a paywall simply would mean less people read it. I don't think I would actually make any money off of it. I think just less people would see it. So it's very difficult. But yeah, I don't want to give up comics. I don't plan to give up comics. Nothing crazy like that. This means a lot to me, and that's why it hurts so much. But I don't know what to do. Simply, like, if I run the next campaign, it's got to be at 20K. And most people who make that, they can set their goals at like $500 because they've already paid for the book. I can't do that. And honestly, if I put it at 20K, that's like twice as much as I survive off of in a year. That's the other bit, is I don't think people understand where I come from financially. And I don't think I understood it well enough when I'm doing this. This is a very expensive hobby. And if you can't make a business out of it, it is near impossible to survive. And the sacrifices to make a business out of it are numerous, and many of which I cannot, to the core of me, make. So it's a lot of oh, woe's me. But I'm trying to figure out how to have a winning mindset with the hole I dug myself into, by creating something I enjoy and love, and by supporting artists I consider dear friends, and by forging a community that I very much appreciate. Like, it's a terrible. It's been such a rough position to be in mentally, but it is what it is. So I don't know. And when I'm honest about these things as well, like, this is all shit that, like, a smarter creator would just not bring up. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm hopeful. But anyway, all this, like, so if you're listening to this, do the opposite of the mistakes I've made, and that is advice I wholeheartedly recommend. Don't do what I've done. Create passionately, but don't do it simply for the passion. You have to be willing to compromise. If you don't compromise, and somehow you're still lucky enough to get these things done, you could very well end up in a very negative position. Uh, so yeah, um, I wanted to talk more about other creator advice because there's a lot of folks who are far less even quote unquote successful than my work that give out like big advice as if like it actually could matter for somebody, and it aggravates me. Um, some of it's very helpful, but the stuff that is helpful is usually no brainer. Like, yeah, you should probably know this, but maybe they haven't heard it from somebody else, and it's good you're saying it. Certainly not going to hurt if it's a no-brainer advice. So yeah.
Yep, you have to play the game or create your own game like Tyler from Draw and Talk.
Oh, I appreciate Draw and Talk and Tyler very much, but there's things that he does that I couldn't do. Both artistically, of course, but also in the promotional end of it, the stuff that I'm just kind of like, okay. Done better at it. There are very many times where I was very disappointed, honestly. But at the same time, like, make your bag, and if it's something you're passionate about, I'm not you, right? So it's not affecting, it's not a choice that perhaps hits them as hard as it would hit me. But yeah, I would say, like, their own game, sure, but many folks I've been, I'm very proud to see their growth and such, also have played the game that I think is just terrible. And that's kind of heartbreaking that it's this game. I've tried to play that. That's the thing too. It's like I've played my own game since I started. Like I've never wavered on it. And it's led me here, which again, blessed more than many. Not many professional level independent comics make it as far as I have. And my work has. And even fewer still make it that way without being embroiled in bullshit near constantly. And the being embroiled bullshit is a marketing tactic. I can't, like, whenever shit goes quiet, suddenly there's something else coming up. I've noticed that with every fucking big creator that isn't simply in the hole. Like, in terms of, like, I guess, in the trenches, I guess is the better way to say it. That is just head down, create, put out the book, create, put out the book, create, put out the book. But even then, the initial sparks of those creators sometimes get forgotten, and they were very much doing the same shit that I've seen for the last 5 years. That is so tiresome. So it is what it is. I just like the games that work for a lot of people, or at least some people, and very much do work for very successful people, are not games I can play as a human being. It's not the world I wish to help continue to forge. I can't ethically, spiritually, mentally sell my soul to that level. And for some people, it's not selling their soul. It's just part of who they are. They're loud, they're opinionated, and that's what they want, right? Like, that's the world they want to forge. I'd say there's nothing wrong with that. From my perspective, there's quite a lot wrong with it. But from theirs, there's not. And so, whatever works for them. But it's that game that it's a very useful tool, and it's one that breaks my heart, like more than many things, more than my mistakes in most cases. Like, my mistakes break my heart. I very much wish I was better, but the amount of times that I go through a creator space, and instead of seeing support and love and sharing, I see the opposite, which then leads to support. It's rough, but that's just the world, and that's something I've got to deal with. And part of how I've dealt with these things, part of what created Jack Irons in the first place, was bearing that. And so I have to acknowledge, when you forge a sigil and you forge one very important to you. You forge an idea, you forge a thought form, and you put it out as that energy, as something important to you, you will attract whatever it is. And so I have for a long time, my character and my sigil is one that takes a beating and continues going forward. And I have to acknowledge that that's going to be part of this journey. We can get into the esoteric, part of why I got into comics too is a lot of magicians work in comics. Grant Morrison's one of them. There's a wonderful talk he did about sigil magic way back in the day, which was one of my original introductions into that practice. And he talks about his comic work and how he put his characters through these things, and then he went through them, right? Is it bullshit? Maybe. I mean, again, it's a magician. You can't believe anything they're saying. Because to be a good one, you have to mix your truths in with lies and with showmanship and with all these different things. The showmanship I've tried to put out has always been with my compatriots and my collaborators, right? Make it look good. And been very blunt and honest. That's where my showmanship comes through. But there's different kinds. But yeah, I highly recommend checking that out if you're interested. I've shared it many times. People don't tend to be interested in that because it goes towards the... I have a lot of Christian comic creator followers and comic fans and stuff, and it definitely is more towards the dark end of occultism that a lot of the shit comes out to. But if you enjoy Hellblazer in particular, you enjoy some of what Garth Ennis has done, you enjoy Neil Gaiman's work, you enjoy any of those English Vertigo creators, that's my base. And they were able to do that work because someone saw their quality. That's the bit too, is the school of creation I've come from. Most of it was not having to forge itself. It had support and direct marketing and belief in the quality. I'm not saying I'm up on those levels. I'm not as practiced a writer. I'm not as good of a writer as any of the people I have mentioned. Those, not only have they had decades of work, more than I have, but even before then, they were stronger talents. But the school in which they create no longer exists in any form anymore. There is no platform in which their original talent and expressions could have manifested these days. There's just no way. The market and the industry and what the industry is comfortable with is significantly different. But that being said, I couldn't have produced any work back when they did, right? I would have no opportunity for the financing. It just would not have happened. Even under the same circumstances in which I was able to create issue number 1, which was $500 I inherited from when my mom died. And I went into comics like, oh, I'm sure I can make a comic for something around that. I was, to be fair, but it was very dumb. And the fact that I met the right person and an extreme talent, and he was willing to do that because probably he needed the money for one, and for two, he liked the idea. I was able to sell him on it. Like back in the day, there's no way. Pre-internet, there's no way. You have to know that, I would have had to be my own artist. So, I don't know. The world's different than then, and I'm trying to create a book which would resonate from then, and it's very hard to do that. Especially when you are to your core anti-system, and the system is rough. And every book I've certainly put that out there. My subtext is not all that sub. I don't know. I appreciate everything. I'm super grateful for the journey. It's just I find myself at a very difficult impasse with it. Um, Anywho, again, that's why I want to, open up the doors, talk to other folks, do something of value again within it, because there's a lot within this space that I can bring that is not on that end of it. It's not on the trying to get money end of it. Honestly, that's the only problem I have with all of this. And honestly, that is it. Like, I don't. If I was well off enough to take the losses, I'd be happy to take the losses, and all of this would be behind me, right? Like, I would have no problem with it. But I am not. So it is what it is. But none of this is supposed to be like I'm so grateful for the journey and the life lessons. My God. If nothing else, I've had a very blessed journey throughout my life with some very hard lessons that have taught me I'm a survivor. And I'm very grateful for that, and the fact that nothing has broken me yet. And I don't expect to be broken till the day I die. In fact, I refuse to be. But that doesn't mean the weight is easy to carry. Yeah. So I went a little off topic, which I kind of expected. But to sum up, the creator's worth listening to. Well, if there's somebody who you appreciate, they're worth listening to. Whether or not they're giving you good advice, they're worth listening to if they make your space better. That was the culmination of all of what I wanted to chat about is if you find value in what they're saying, they're worth listening to. In my opinion, there's not that many, and there are many who put out advice that kind of pisses me off. That doesn't mean that advice wouldn't work for you. Just so corny. Follow your heart with that. Like, what resonates with you, or what works for your soul. Go for that, and embrace the journey, and just be smarter with the actual fundamental energy behind it, which is both your passion and your love and your talent, but also literal finances. That's one I've always neglected. I say neglected. I tried very hard to budget this last one correctly. I spent a very long time trying to set it up, and somehow it still got away from me. Frustrating. But it will get done. So, if there's any questions in chat, I'm happy to answer. But yeah, that kind of covers it. Whatever works for you. That's who's worth listening to. I recommend Scott McCloud's books. I recommend Gamal Hennessy's books. He's got one on Kickstarter right now, which is The Business of Independent Comics. But I have the legal book. I forgot what it's called. His first book. And again, it's very like you will learn something from it, but a lot of it is very adoy, right? It's very basic advice. Don't leverage your house to make comics, kind of stuff, right? It's stuff. It's very common sense, but there's a lot of more like in the weeds and stuff that maybe some people, especially naive, hopeful artists, would overlook. Things like myself, people like myself. How long have I been yapping for almost an hour? That makes sense. Hour and a half. Oh, okay. The guy lived anyway. Yeah, it's becoming more common too, and that's the real life equivalent of this shit, where you're just antagonizing people for prank YouTube channels for views. It's how desperate people are. I watched that during the pandemic as well. So another factor is that was wonderful to see, but the sustainability of it as a mass market is just not there. Is a lot of people decided during the pandemic to follow their heart and their dreams and to throw out their work. And so the space is more of a cacophony, which is the term I've used forever. It's a lot of noise and a lot of
Jose Garcia
books out right now.
said,
It's very difficult to stand
I
out.
don't think they are aware of their unfair advantages and attribute their success to themselves because cognitive biases and not the context and stuff around it, so it doesn't apply to everyone.
Bingo, Jose. Like I don't think it's malicious. I think they're actually like, this worked for me, so it should work for you, kind of stuff. And I think there's a lot of that, particularly the more successful you are. Uh, that pick yourself up by your own bootstraps kind of mentality is a lot easier when you've already standing tall, right? Like that's just all over. And there's a gigantic fucking war ideologically going on with that, particularly in America. Um, where it's like, well, you're given all these, and I've done it, and ignores all these different factors, and there's the same thing where it's like becomes hopeless, so you need to tear it all down, and that's all. So it's a very difficult position we find ourselves in this time. That's been true for like ever. It's just different flavors of it, right? So I do believe humanity will rise above it, but it's not a fun one to try to sell a comic in. That's for sure. But yeah, no, you nailed it right on the head, right? The stuff that pisses me off, honestly, is I highly doubt any of it is malicious. I think it's very well intentioned in almost every case, but is it ignorant? You can very well be very, very ignorant of many factors. It's not that difficult. And so, like, even my advice is just like, be careful. That's all I'd say. Be careful. Don't do stupid things, and don't put too much faith in people. Two major mistakes in my comic career have been related to that. One that has hobbled me for a long time, and then the other one which just hurt a lot, and it sucked. But it is what it is. Again, like, it's very hard for me to not sound like, oh, poor me with this. Like, no. You take the beatings you need in most cases, as long as you're willing to get back up from them, right? And maybe one day I'll have accumulated enough of those to be strong enough to be successful in my own terms, instead of semi-successful in my own terms. Like, I'm so glad how many people have been able to read my book. That, like, thousands of people have read Jack Irons. Thousands. That's incredible. But yeah, the percentage that actually like makes it in comics is very, 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 very low. And even then, if you quote unquote make it, and let's say you're writing Spider-Man or what fucking have you, you'd probably still be making more at a high-end office job. It's rough. If you judge it by finances, comics is awful for 99% of comic creators. It's awful. Oh, this is something people are. Oh, well, let me see. I was curious. I want to look at this. They're accepting fan works. Interesting. I don't know if anybody on this channel is interested in this, but this is new, and it doesn't look terrible.
Jose Garcia said, what we value and what the audience value might not be in line. That LOL get you to burn out real fast. You have to find an audience to align with, but right now on indies comics are not what's valued.
Yep. Very true, Jose. Very true. So anyway, if anybody's interested, Newgrounds is having a comic book contest. It started on the 12th. It ends in December. 16 pages. You can win up to $500, but I think what would be far more valuable is the amount of people who will see your comic, particularly through Newgrounds, right? Depending on how they market it. What I don't see here is what it means to publish it on Newgrounds. They don't say anything about like licensing or how they'll use it afterwards, so I'd be careful there. They will accept fan comics, which probably means they won't be like having any ownership over it, so it's just a chance to put this out. In fact, I think it is from a comic creator on Newgrounds, so it's not even from them themselves, so I don't even know how much exposure you'll get, but it's very rare you can get paid for a webcomic. So if you're interested, check it out. It just came across it, and I was curious. Honestly, I always look into stuff to see how the fuck but it doesn't look like it's going to do that. So probably worth checking out if you want to. I don't know what kind of level of competition there'll be. It's certainly going to be far less competitive than the manga contests that IronVerse Comics has participated in, which were the straight up like the Shonen Jump. Forgot what it's called, and then there was the Kyoto contest as well. We participated in a couple years ago and got a shit ton of views, which was excellent, but very, very competitive. Yeah, it's very true. Like what you want to put out and what the world wants to see is very difficult. It can be very, very different, and that's part of the business bit as well, right? Like you should be making a comic for an audience. It's great if it works for you, but you should be making a comic for an audience. And the audience I make a comic for is small. I don't think it's as small as it's actually like manifested for me. I think it's massive, and I think part of the problem has been exposure. Because I've seen what happens when it gets a bit more exposure. People enjoy it significantly. But that exposure, especially online, is very fleeting. I think physical exposure would do far more. And again, the amount of money it's brought in and the amount of backers it's brought in is not insignificant compared to many works. So I think there is a fuck ton of untapped potential within our work, but I also think that I currently have not been able to figure out how to leverage that in a way that works for our books. It's just I have not. I've leveraged it enough to allow it to survive and manifest work, which is incredible. But it's not. It's becoming not sustainable. In fact, I think it has hit the insustainability level. And so I got to figure out how to either make it more sustainable or pivot somewhere else. Ooh, this will get hit, but I like this. Oh, this track. Okay, so I think I'll call it at 2 hours. So I got 10 minutes. If there's any like questions, concerns, comments, anything, I really appreciate folks joining me today. It always makes a difference for the stream. Honestly, me trying to keep things moving can be very difficult without engagement, which makes sense. Though I've done it many times, it does make it more difficult. So again, that's why I'm trying to pivot into interesting things, different things, get outside perspectives, break out of the box I've been stuck in for quite some time, and see what opportunities manifest from that. I recommend doing that very often if you're stuck, particularly in a transitional period, which I found myself in. That is advice I think that applies to any kind of creative field. Yeah. I gotta go see what the pups are arguing about, but I will be right back. If there are any questions, I will be addressing those as I come back. But till then, please stand by.
Jake Concha said, "Have a good day, Browski." Jose Garcia said, "Thanks for the stream, gotta go see it."
Cool, that worked. Hey, buddy. Yep, brought the pups in. Weather's starting to get a little worse, surprisingly. Thought today was going to be a nice day weather-wise. Did not end up being that. Thank you, brother. I don't know if you're still around, but thank you. You have a good one, too. Same, Jose. Adios. Yeah, I'm not going to be streaming too much longer. Anywho, so, yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for participating, folks. Really appreciate it. It does indeed make a massive difference. I should plug this, even though it may not be the time. If you would, check out The Recluse on Indiegogo. It's live for just under a week. It's very possible to make this. I've got a couple ideas in the back of the mind there that would maybe increase its exposure, but any help we can get on it will be much appreciated. It is a passion project from somebody who is very consistent on delivery, and it helps expand IronVerse Comics and its lore, and it is crafted very well. So check it out if you're interested. Check out the campaign page. $3 to get the digital. $3 will make a massive difference. You can also get all of Jack Irons alongside it, I think, for an additional $12. If you want physicals, they're actually also very cheap. So check it out. Would very, very much appreciate it. Oh, this camera. There you go. It's very easy to change the lighting type on it. Hi, Spud. Oh, yeah. Hi, Lita. Thank you, sweet. How you doing, huh? They were doing good. They're just protecting the house as they do. That's all the Borkin was about. In fact, the old man, the old shelter boy, Mr. Geralt, he's the one who's a little bit more hair trigger with his barking, which makes sense. Gosh, how long have I had him? I don't even know. It's been months. Like 3 months, 4 months. He became part of the family very, very quickly. Also, my mood's probably down because, you know, the whole lack of work thing's got me stressed out. Got a lot of mouths to feed around here. They're cheaper than feeding human mouths. but it's a lot of mouths. Yeah, it also bugged me too, is because I had been saving to finish out this campaign and get it pushed behind me, and now I have to now I have to access that to survive, unless there's still a chance I don't have to, unless I get a gig here pretty soon. And I've got one I'm gonna try out for, I think. But yeah, life's a hell of a trip, and I wish I carried it better sometimes. Can I close that? Cool. but yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for the creator roundtables. I still want to figure out how I want to set that up. Whether I gotta set up a new channel, which might be best, or if I put it on this one again. It's already got an established, if small, audience, and it is part of the brand. I think I'd like to do it on this channel, and what I'll need to do is, nope, not that one. This one. Yeah. So I'll need to set up a new framing, right? Like to keep something like this on screen though, but I'll probably shrink it. Maybe 6 folks. Discord. Let's see. Yeah. Discord does allow visuals, if I remember correctly. So I'd go here, right? And instead of the webcam, this would be this, right? And then you go over here, right? And then you can, what did I do? Well, there's a bunch of folks talking. Is there any way to, yeah. So you do that. And then there'd be a couple folks, like I would go, boom, right? Do I not have camera settings, or is it because it's being accessed by 2 programs? That's the camera. Interesting. Oh, that doesn't matter. So that's something I have to figure out, if it's already being accessed by... Yeah, there's like a lot of little bug things I gotta figure out too. So I like, again, this camera, but could I share my screen? Yes, it'd be easy to share the screen. Okay, this is fine. Oh, and then it does that. So it actually opens multiple. That's kind of neat. But weird, it's not actually showing the screen. Like this app's not working, this app's not working. A lot of little things like that I gotta figure out. The fact that the camera's not working is odd to me. Like that's fine, I don't care about that so much. There's probably a way, it might work if I don't do, if we're not live, right? If I actually do recording instead of streaming. Or if I'm already in here and then I start streaming, that'll probably work. In fact, I think that's how I do it. I'll have to check that. But then, yeah, you have other folks here, right? 2 or 3 other folks, whether they have cameras or not, so you could see it. I probably would turn, not that one. Oh, maybe that one. This one. Turn that off. Is chat still on though? I don't know. But yeah, you could have chat. Can you? Oh, yes, you can. So it'd be like this, right? Something like this. There's the actual mouse. something like this. It probably wouldn't have the IronVerse Comics logo over it. Probably have Creator Roundtable instead or something. Okay. Still got an idea how I want to do this. Yeah. Something like that. Okay, that's still working. That's good. So yeah, I think it's possible. I think I just actually need everybody in here first before I start streaming, which, yeah, duh. And that's if I want live. If I want recorded, that's totally fine too. So the share screen kind of works, but it doesn't really. But it does have all the tools I need. That's good. How do I leave again? Discord, yeah, you disconnect. There you go. Cool. So yeah, I'll have to set that up. I don't know how many bells and whistles, but I think it's something like that. And then I would go through OBS. I mainly like Discord because it's got a little bit more options for me to control if things somehow got out of hand. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there, folks. I didn't really hit all the notes I really wanted to, but I kind of did. The main point is, again, just listen to what resonates with you and try it. If it don't work, it doesn't work. It was also a warning that there's a lot of sharks in the water. Don't listen to the sharks. Don't give them money for nothing. Anything they can do on the marketing level is very likely you can do. So, and that's the best case scenario, and they're not actually just trying to steal from you. Larger creators take their advice with a grain of salt because, as Jose said earlier, they may not truly have a very good perspective of how they got to where they are. Smaller creators, they haven't quite gotten anywhere. Right, as a smaller creator, they may still have valuable advice. In fact, I'd find it more likely than the super successful ones. But again, grain of salt. Is there anybody worth listening to in creator-owned comics? Yeah, but good luck in making sure you find the right folks. There's no absolute in that. I can't point you to the right direct people. I recommend anybody who's, I recommend Scott McCloud. I recommend Gamal Hennessy and their books in particular. Those are great foundations for starting out and just understanding the medium. But aside from that, you got to understand that many comic creators come from a perspective of competition and not uplifting, and that advice is coming from that perspective. Not to mislead you, perhaps, but to compete with others, right? So it's for engagement, and that in itself makes it definitely not taking fully to heart until you feel like you understand it. Because, yeah, there's a good chance that, nope, it ain't gonna work for you. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Cody with IronVerse Comics, and I will catch you again later. I'm hoping to do a creator roundtable here soon. I said end of this month, and it's already there, right? Today's the last day of this month, so it's not going to happen today, but perhaps next Saturday. That will be part of my goal. I'm taking a couple weeks off just to breathe and put my old gig behind me, and part of that has been leaning into comics. So we'll see how that shakes loose. But yeah, I wish you all the best. Ever need to contact me, IronVerse Comics, basically anywhere, and you will find me. Adios amigos, vaya con Dios, and I will catch you next time.